So it's a pleasure to be invited to talk a little bit about today's global threat. I will share my PPT with you. That's a simple analysis of today's world and how the danger comes really from. So while other countries would like to embrace a multipolar world in the post-Cold War period and a multilateral framework of international coordination mechanisms to deal with global issues, the United States wants to take advantage of its position as a sole superpower to impose its own way of life. Think about the end of history. The end of history told us that that's the peak of human history. So humans will all become Americans some way. Show its strength by waiting. That's why after the story about the end of history, those predominant propagandists in the United States tried to promote their model, and then they tried to wage several wars to show their muscles. So in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. But unfortunately, these wars, instead of helping the US ensure its predominance globally, did deplete its fiscal capability. So to some extent, it's a paradox that on one hand, the US wanted to maintain its predominance globally and to take advantage of its status as the only superpower, as the only hegemon in the international system to maintain its position. But on the other hand, the way it tried to maintain its predominance has completely depleted its fiscal power. So today's threat is the more the US is grasping at its declining hegemony, while its fiscal position cannot afford to do so, the more it will be tempted to instigate wars in other regions of the world in order to present itself as the only safe harbor of international investment. That's how I think that those capitalists try to manage things in the world and with regard to the United States. So I just wanted to talk with these three topics. War as an instrument to show the US military muscles. The second point is double-edged sword. So this behavior is the double sword because that will deplete the fiscal revenues of the United States, aggravating the economic recession and financial crisis. The last, the US is sowing discord in other regions, in other countries. That's the modern version of divide and rule. So that if we talk about imperialism, it's back. It's that the divide and rule is an instrument used by the old imperialist countries in the world. So war as an instrument to show US military muscle. So interest group is behind the wars. We know that military industrial contexts are very interested in promoting war in other countries. And that, but unfortunately, those wars has depleted a lot of fiscal capability of the United States without ensuring even a minor war in Afghanistan, for example, a small country in the world. So in Afghanistan, they spent so many money. They spend so many money. They have completely depleted US fiscal powers for nothing, Iraq war also, they spent so many in Iraq, while created some monsters like ISIS, Islamic State, all these things. And then they provoked also Libya war and just toppled a regime that was in cooperation with Western world, while currently in all these regions, those regions has become really a warm bed of the international terrorism, although for some time it calms down now. Syria war. Syria is still in war, and Syria has become a dispute of these geopolitical powers in the region, because we don't know how it will end up. So, and the second problem is the double-edged sword. Double-edged sword is depletion of fiscal revenues, aggravating economic recession and the fiscal crisis. Let's have a look at these things. I remember that in 2007, when the subprime bubble burst. So in the United States, there is an imminent financial crisis in 2000. Really, with Lehman Brothers go bankrupt, financial tsunami comes to the United States first, and then that crosses over the Atlantic Ocean to reach Europe, and then the whole world has been involved into international financial crisis. So in 2007, Hank Paulson wanted to bail out the U.S. financial system. So she backed Nancy Pelosi, who used to be the spokeswoman of the U.S. Congress, for $700 billion U.S. dollars bailing out emergency bill. And then Joe Stiglitz just ironized. He said a country that can spend more than $5 trillion US to wage a war. I mean the war, the Iraq war, because he wrote a book about the spending in all these completely nonsense wars in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And according to his calculus, the United States might have spent more than $5 trillion US for a war which does nothing. Which has nothing of meaningful war for the United States. So in countries that can spend $5 trillion US to wage a war cannot afford to spend $700 billion US to save its financial system. So it's really irony. And now currently, the United States, our Biden administration, continue to finance the war in Ukraine. Recently, the US country just made a bill to support more than $70 billion US to the Ukrainian government, to support the Ukrainian government to continue to fight. While in the United States, they have a lot of broken bridge, dilapidated roads. They need a lot of investments in their domestic infrastructures. They don't have any money to spend on their domestic infrastructure construction, while they can still to spend money abroad for completely nonsense wars. So that's really that's really a pity. How people should redress these kind of differences between the lack of investment in infrastructure building, in mending those broken bridges and dilapidated roads, instead of dilapidating money in those useless wars. So that's something. Those funny picture has been found in Chinese newspaper to the Hank Paulson is begging Pelosi for these $700 billion bill to save the US financial system. And the last part of my talk is about solving discord in other countries. I think that's the modern version of imperialist countries of the old way of divide and rule. Divide and rule used to be imperialist countries' practice in Africa, in Asia, in any other countries. Actually, today, in many countries of the world, the domestic conflicts in many countries, including in India, in Pakistan, in other countries, has been left by the colonialists. Because in the era of colonial powers, those imperialist countries use these divide and rule to try to maintain those regions under their control. And these tactic of divide and rule have led to those conflicts among those ethnic groups in Ukraine. We know that in Ukraine, the Ukraine conflict has been also provoked by the incessant efforts of different US government to trying to maintain, to form some protest movements. So Victoria Newland have reviewed in a conversation with EU officials, she just complained about the nullity, about the uselessness of the European Union to support those opposition forces in Ukraine. She just said that the US has spent millions of dollars to support the Ukrainian protesting movement to topple down an elected government. Actually, the Maidan Revolution is a sort of color revolution that the US had conducted in many Eastern European countries to topple down their legitimate power, legitimate elected government. So they wanted to promote this kind of revolution. And we also, Li Jingjing talked about Hong Kong violence, Hong Kong riot. In Hong Kong, also they did support separatist movements to create those kind of riots. And they called those right movements, the civil society, they did express to support all these to challenge the legitimate Hong Kong authorities. So, and Nancy Pelosi said about, called Hong Kong's riot a beautiful scenery in US television. We all know that. That's why when Donald Trump called people to some violent behaviors at US, at Washington's Capitol Hill. So in China, we said, oh, he has been retaliated by his own words. So in Hong Kong, we have those kind of things. And then, yes, Li Jingjing told also about these lies about concentration camps in Xinjiang. It's really ridiculous that United States or some Western country, those called Christian countries, all of a sudden showed their concern about Muslim population in China. When in other part of China, of this world, they are concerned about the clash of civilization. They are blaming those Muslim countries for their support to so-called radical Islamic movement, so on and so forth. So anyway, remember that when George Bush launched his war on Iraq and called it, he called the military action a crusade, new crusade. So that's something reminds those Christian countries that the conflict is coming between Muslim world and Christian world. While talking about China, all of a sudden, those Christian countries become so concerned about the fate of Chinese Muslim population. So it becomes really a joke. And then when we look at those Muslim countries' attitude towards Xinjiang's problems, no Muslim countries is really showed their anger about Xinjiang. And on the contrary, we have invited some diplomats from the Western country, from Muslim countries to visit Xinjiang. When they came back, including Saudi diplomats, they said that, yes, we can find a lot of inspiration from Chinese experience. Maybe we should learn some experience from Chinese practice, then to implement in their domestic countries in their Muslim countries to try to stop the spread of radicalist terrorist movements. So that's something very funny.
If you can wrap up, Yifan, please.
Yes, please. I'm at the end of my talk. And recently, some American diplomats had a private conversation with their guest in American consulate in China. And then those conversations have been leaked out in the internet. And those people said that they know that what they said about Xinjiang is not true. It's a total lie. But they wanted to sow discord, to instigate separatist movements in Xinjiang. So they recognize that all these they talked about Xinjiang is a lie. So this kind of double-faced game about defending Taiwan, we know that President Joe Biden said by 20 Islam that the United States will defend Taiwan and so on and so forth. That's to support the separatist movement and in Taiwan and to check Chinese rights. But we're ready to take those cases seriously if really they want to continue to push the separatist movements in Taiwan to support those separatist movements. We won't hesitate to take Taiwan over. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
so
sorry for
the conclusion is that we should mobilize social forces to unmask the logic behind the US initiated wars and proxy wars and the protest against more wars in the world. Actually, our movements, our social movements are there to protest against, to unmask those kind of logic and to protest against more wars in the world.